So today I want to give you a story, and it's not just a story, but it's something that has been published. I'm going to share the link of the publication, which was done by Cambridge. So I know these days we are talking about brokers and all these things, but do you know there's a history actually towards that? We have a sour side of citrus, and when we talk about citrus, we are talking the likes of lemon, the likes of oranges, and how this spawned the mafia. Let's start. So, we dive into the world before the modern medicine, where sailors used to face a lot of problems, and there was a silent killer which was known as scurvy. And you know, scurvy is actually treated by just eating citrus fruits, so vitamin C. If you do vitamin C, then scurvy disappears, or it doesn't even occur. So the lemon, which basically transformed from a backyard plant into green gold, attracting the world's most dangerous brokers. And we'll talk about this. Hujambo and karibuni. Today we are telling a story that sounds like a movie. By the way, even when I was reading it, I was feeling like this is a movie. It feels like it should be a movie, or maybe it's already a movie, and it's 100% true. Imagine a time when going to the sea was a death sentence, and not just because of the storms, but because of a disease, and a very simple disease, scurvy. This is a story of how the cure of this disease actually created the most infamous criminal organization in history, the they're called what? Sicily, so it has to be Sicilian, yes, Sicilian Mafia. So in Kenya, we know about dalalis, that's the brokers. And these are the guys who show up at the farm gate to help you sell your produce. Well, there are those that are good, and you can see this a lot when you have like the maize season, avocado season. But at the end, you are really taking a huge cut as a farmer. Well, today we are going to see what happens when dalalis become rogue and turn into a global empire. So turuke ndani. In the 1700s, scurvy was actually killing sailors, and it was an enemy, which was even bigger than actually the war itself. When the war came, I think there was a war that happened, and imagine more of the British Navy soldiers were dying of scurvy than even the war. So in around the early 1700s, there was a doctor called James Lind who entered, and he was a British naval surgeon, and he was actually an apprentice. And in the 1730s, he conducted this research where he took some oranges and lemons, and then he was able to administer them to some soldiers to see how the effect would be. So he actually noticed that when they took the lemon juice or the orange juice, they got instant healing. And this was something that he published around 1753. Can you imagine from 1753, 42 years, actually just around the time he died, 1753, he publishes this paper that showcases how he did his research and the results. And he dies, and between that time, 42 years later, no one actually implemented that recommendation. They claim that there was no conclusive recommendations that were given in his paper, so it was like inconclusive. But you see, no one even bothered to take what he did and actually, try it and see if it works. So after his death in 1795 is when we found that juice was actually now recommended for utilization on all the ships that were sailing. So you can imagine this island that the Arabs introduced some citrus around the 10th century, and this was mostly for decoration and maybe extraction of perfumes, because Arabs do that a lot in terms of like perfumery and all these things. I don't know if there's a word called perfumery. Tutaangalia, tuweke pin hapo. So anyway, so these crops, these lemon trees were mostly for decoration and for perfumes. Now imagine the twist. It turns up that these lemons are the same ones that are going to be utilized for curing scurvy, and the demand just shot. So ukiangalia, like for example, Dr. Lind, in this case, he was the innovator, discovered the citrus, the technology innovator, discovered the citrus, and then sailors needed this. But it took time, like the big wigs in the Royal Navy, they had to discuss and all this, then finally administer that. So this island called Sicily, which is part of Italy actually, it's an island in Italy, now became where it was an ideal place to grow the lemons. But of course, you know, the climate in Europe, how it is, it might not allow to grow the lemons because they preferred like a lower altitude where it's a bit warm. So up to a certain altitude, then you could grow the lemons. And Sicily was one of those islands that actually could grow a lot of lemons. So due to this demand, it rose very fast, and it became, we know, like if you look at Kenya, for example, and there's demand for avocado, demand for macadamia, we find that there's even stealing that occurs. Even maize, you have to hire like a security person to take care of your maize at night, or to take care of your avocado so that they are not stolen. So the same thing was happening in Sicily, whereby there was, now we are seeing demand for lemon go up. Alafu, you're seeing citrus fruits, and that time when you look at citrus fruit, there was olives and citrus fruits. So when you look at citrus fruits, the profit were like 60 times higher than any other crop on the island. And the hectares of lemons that could make 14,000 liters would make only 400 liters of the olive oil. So you can see the difference. So it became a problem. And you know, you're growing this lemon. For growing lemons was hard. It would take about 6 to 8 years to mature. So if anyone steals or cuts this, then you can imagine staying another decade to have this. So the law in Sicily was very weak, and the structures were not really good at that time. So we had to have like censalis, or the dalalis, or the original brokers, who then were intermediaries. They would act as the exporters at the hub. So they were between the farmer and between the farmer and the intermediaries. There were some guys who used to be in the middle. And this basically, because there was no trust these brokers had to start offering protection in a way. So they were recruited everywhere. So doctors, lawyers, even former bandits, they became men of honor, or what we call mafioso. Now, if you paid them, they'd put a lemon on your gate with a sign saying, Hapa usiguze, okay, in the local language, of course. And if you didn't pay, then your trees would accidentally die, or your water supply would disappear, or these brokers would just stop helping, and at the end of the day, your lemons would be stolen. By the 1870s and 1880s, the mafia had become so involved in every step, choosing the workers, setting the prices, enforcing the contracts. They infiltrated the political sphere, like it was really bad, using their power and control of the ballot box. Does it sound familiar? Because you see, when you look at our own agricultural spaces, see how we lack formal structures, especially when you look at farming in general. We have what we call cartels, or the brokers who come in. Well, there are some that actually help, and I've done another video of the same, another blog of the same, or a write-up, I'll have to check, that explains how brokers are useful, but they need to be structured, and they need to be like policies to guide this. So there was no formal structure in Sicily. So all that started with a doctor to save lives using lemon, now ended up into like a syndicate, crime syndicate. The market for lemon wasn't just about fruit, it was about control of the flow of money when the state was missing in action. Well, eventually Italy came on board. When now the structures were put, and Sicily became part of, I think, Italy. I don't know if it was. I would need to check the history about that. Or somebody can comment and just say, yes, it was, or no, it wasn't, or it was, but there was no formalization. So when the formal structures were put in place, so police now were running the whole process to give protection. But again, remember that police were not enough. So some of the ones who are mafioso also now became police officers, and it still continued. So as we wrap up, what does that tell us? It reminds us about innovation and high profits that always attract some brokers or protectors within the strong systems. What we call dalalis, they become the king, and even the owners of the innovations, or the owners of the products that need to get into market, then actually do not benefit. So next time you see a lemon, just remember that it's not just for tea or shamba work. It's the fruit that built an empire. The Silesian mafia didn't start with drugs or banks. It started with the green gold, that is the lemon, and just structures that were weak that could help them to thrive. As we build our innovations, as we build our structures today, from Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa, Africa in general, we have to ask, are we building systems that protect the owners or the farmers of this product, the owners of these innovations, or are we leaving a gate open for the new age of men of honor, in quotes? When I say men of honor, in quotes. So thanks for watching, and don't forget to like or follow my channel for more stories. We'll try and make it every Friday. We give a story that is linked to a published paper so that you can read and see what is the history of what we have today. See you in the next video.